Good afternoon. My name is Jason Ray, and I'm bringing to you to the Oklahoma Postgame live at the voice of college football. In a game today for Oklahoma, that was one of the most coming off of one of the most embarrassing in program history. Um, in the loss to TCU, they followed it up again with another just completely embarrassing loss to Texas, 49-0. Lots of streaks were broken in a negative way for Oklahoma in this game. Um, Most of you that watched the broadcast saw this, but um, if you did not watch the broadcast, I believe Oklahoma broke a streak of 176 consecutive games scoring a touchdown, which was the most in the nation. Didn't really come close to scoring a touchdown, particularly in the second half. They had a couple of opportunities in the first half. Second half, no. Um, didn't even I don't know that Oklahoma even gained the first down in the second half if I'm being honest, just from a statistical perspective. Let's see. There's nothing positive. There's not one single positive thing that happened in this game. And me as a coach, I was thinking of this as the game was going, as the game was ending. Like, what could you possibly say that was positive in this game? I guess the one thing that you could say is no one really got hurt. There was no injuries, no big injuries in the game. Um, so I mean that's the only thing that you could possibly say, other than the fact that you didn't give up big, huge chunk plays like you did last week against TCU. But that's I mean you're stretching, um, for something like this, and so for Oklahoma right now. This team looks like the worst team in the Big 12. This team is going to have to improve mightily just to even get to bowl eligibility. It hasn't, you know, I think it hasn't looked this bad in a long time for Oklahoma fans. This is those of you that lived through the '90s. This is what this is, and I think it's a combination of a lot of things, right? So I think it's a combination of the way Riley left this team, um, and the people that he took with him, plus the people that, particularly on defense, the kids that left and went to the NFL, the kids that left and went to other places. So I think you've got that as, um, in totality, the reason why. And I think overall, I think as fans and people that support and watch and cover this team, I think it was one of those things where I think we kind of underestimated or overestimated what the rebuild would be. But this is '90s level, and I think the probably the biggest concerning thing, and I don't know that that you can say one thing over the other. I think offensively was horrible, defensively was horrible. There wasn't, obviously, like I said, there wasn't um, much positive things that you could say about this. Um, outs, Defensively, it's just been more the same that we talked about last week. In the last couple of weeks, bad tackling. This week, you give the defense. I don't think the defense was quite as bad as they were, even though they gave up the 49 points. Yeah, I get that, but the offense continuously put them in bad situations over and over and over and over again in this game. So maybe not quite as bad defensively, but still, we don't cover well on the back end. We're getting zero pressure on the quarterback. The blitzes aren't getting home. Um, we're out of position, missed tackling, just anything that you can name. Like I said, the only thing is you did not give up huge chunk plays in the passing game or the running game. Um, and when I said like 50 plus yard chunk plays, but the one thing that I will say that I know there's a lot of on here, a lot of people. I'm not calling for anybody's job. I don't. I think it's too early to do that, particularly the head coach. Like, guys, you got to give that. You can't fire a coach after 6 games. That's just ridiculous. You can't fire a coordinator after 6 games. That's equally as ridiculous. But I think the one thing that I will say here from a coaching staff perspective is that I thought the game plan was absolutely horrendous for this game. I don't think any way, shape, or form anybody on this team from a coaching staff put any of these kids in a position to win. It to me felt like from the kickoff to the end of the game that they just wanted to get through it. They wanted to get through the game. They knew that they weren't going to. They knew that they weren't going to be able to win the game. They thought, and I think that they didn't put the kids in position to be able to win the game. And so with that, you know, I understand playing starting, but I can even get behind starting Davis Bevel. I can get behind the start there. What I can't get behind is the continued staying with Bevel, especially you get down 21, 28 points. Okay. Um, you you have the opportunity to bring in Booty, you bring in Evers, you bring in someone else besides running this junior high offense that they ran for the entire game. So um, it's it's as bad a football as I've seen played. It's as bad as putting them in position. Yeah, you can put blame on coaches without actually needing them to be fired, right? And so I think it's kind of an abomination for this Oklahoma team to be where they are at the quarterback position. Yes, I get that we lost 2 five-star quarterbacks last year. I completely can understand that and kind of get behind um, that understanding, but you should have somebody that, not great, but you should have somebody that's able to complete passes. Bevel is 6 for 12 for 38 yards. That's absolutely embarrassing, there. So this is not the worst loss in Oklahoma history, but this is the worst loss that they've had in the Red River Showdown. So, um, like I said, there's not much positive to show. I mean, I mean, Gray when they ran that play that Wildcat in the first half, it worked pretty well on occasions. But then, like any good defense, they'll adjust to it, and they did. And it's a gimmick. It's not an offense. Like it's something that you could run for several plays, and maybe even a series or two. But not. It can be an offense. So, I think the fact that Oklahoma continued was a testament that they had zero confidence in Bevel, which was warranted, and then they even had more than zero confidence, if that's such a thing, in General Booty and Nick Evers coming in, um, coming into this game. So the fact of the matter is, this team is through 6 games. They're 3-3. They've had 2 separate seasons. They'd had the season against UTEP, Kent State, Nebraska, where this team looked like they could be a lot better moving forward. Um, and then you've had these last 3 games where this team has been absolutely horrific, um, consistently on the defensive side, and then obviously this week offensively, where it was not good um, at all, right? So I think you hopefully get Dylan Gabriel back next week, and you have at least some semblance of an offense, right? I think you have where you can still move the ball on the offensive side of the ball. Yes, that doesn't help anything defensively, which I completely can get behind and understand that. But you can at least move the ball on the offensive side of the ball, hopefully, and run more of an offense. So that's the biggest criticism for me, is just not putting these kids in position to play, to win. It felt like they were just trying to get through the game, versus actually even attempting to win. So things are about as bad in Norman as they've been in some time. Certainly, the honeymoon is over for Venables and staff here. They they've got a lot of work to do. They're going to earn their money for sure. I mean, you obviously there's no way the people that are yelling to fire Venables or to fire Levy, that's not it. That's not what you do after 6 games. But you've got to go through this last part of the year for Oklahoma and try to get better each and every week. It's as simple as that, right? You're not you're not winning a Big 12 championship, obviously. You're not playing for a conference championship. You're not you don't have any goals at all. Um, any of the goals that are measurable that you started the season with. So the only tangible goal for this team would be um, can you get to a bowl game? Can you get to bowl eligibility? I think right now it's hard to see a win on this team on the schedule. Um, but we'll see. Teams can improve, and we'll see how that goes. But this team is right now they're gradually getting worse every single week as Big 12 season has started. Kansas State was bad, but that it's explainable. Oklahoma struggled with Kansas State over the last few years, and so it's just one of those things. Okay, Kansas State kind of has our number, has Oklahoma's number, and then what happened last week against TCU was pretty embarrassing in terms of the way Oklahoma played, really defensively from start to finish. And then obviously today it got worse. Texas could have won this game by 60 to 70 points. If they wanted to. So you have to find a way to try to win 3 games to get the bowl eligibility if you're Oklahoma, which is tough. But I think the one thing to remember is I know people don't want to see but Nick Saban's first year, Alabama was 6-6. When you look at Dabo Swinney's first year, I think they were 7-5 or 6-6, 7-5 that year. And so, this was much bigger of a rebuild than I think anyone ever imagined that it could have been. And I think this is humbling. And I think one of the big challenges for that, some of the recruits on social media are still being very positive, um, and and things like that. So I think that's a good sign for now. But I think there's going to be a lot of a lot of heavy recruiting still of those guys that Oklahoma has got commitments from, just to keep that intact. And remember, this Texas team went 5-7 a year ago, so things happen. Teams go through phases based on situations, and I think a majority of this I still blame on Riley in terms of how he left. He left um, this team in the situation he left them in. So, yeah, it's maybe a bit more of a rebuild than a lot of people thought, including myself. But we'll see how things go. We'll see if things like that continue to go downhill or keep going. But you guys that are here on the comments in here talking about Venable should be fired. You guys need to go get a life. That's not even remotely accurate on what should happen. And I mean, shame on you for being an Oklahoma fan and asking for a coach in 6 games to be fired. It's completely ridiculous, and it shouldn't be said, and it shouldn't happen here. So you rebuild. I mean, if this happens in year 3, if this is what's happening, okay, I can maybe get on board with your commentary a little bit more. But tons of comments in this chat talking about, and tons of things that I've seen on social media talking about Venables should be fired. So it's absolutely not how it should be. So again, when you look at this team's schedule moving forward, obviously they got Kansas. They got Kansas next week, and then they got a week off before they go to Iowa State. So we'll continue to see how things go for Oklahoma um, going forward. But I would like to see, and I don't know that we see that, but I would like to see um, Oklahoma start getting some of these younger kids in, get some, even if it's at the even if that's at the not the benefit, but the deficit of just losing some games or get some of these younger kids some more playing time and things like that. Um, so yeah, we'll see how that goes. But you know when you look at the rest of the season, um, right now it's hard to see a win, honestly, let alone three to get to bowl eligibility. But it's really difficult to see to see a win here. I don't know that I ever imagined this, but Oklahoma has lost the last two games by a combined 103 to 24. Just mind-boggling to me. Not anything that I thought would happen, but hey, I think we underestimated um, the the rebuild, and it's just about as bad as it has been. So for you guys that have been there through the '90s, you guys know what it was like with with John Blake, a little bit of the Gary Gibbs teams. You had John Blake and then Schnellenberger here as well, which was really really bad. So Oklahoma team as a program has been through this. I think they can go keep going through this and understand that this is a rebuild and absolutely need to get better. But it's tough. It's tough how Oklahoma has rolled, for the most part over these last few years, and just hasn't, been as good this year. Not even anything close. So really a really tough situation for Oklahoma. It looks like Oklahoma's going to face Kansas coming off of a loss, their first loss of the year. I don't know if that game's final yet. Yeah, they lost 38-31 to TCU at home, but still, they have a lot on the offensive side of the ball to be. They've played they even scored 38 or 31 points here without Jalen Daniels for a majority of the second half. So when you look at that game 38-31, Kansas still put up 540 yards of total offense in that game. Even with a backup quarterback, Jason Bean threw for 262, four touchdowns. So yeah, I mean, I think Oklahoma is probably looking at what I don't think many people would have thought this year or any other year. The fact that Oklahoma will probably be an underdog at home to Kansas. Like, let that sink in for a second. Being an underdog at home to Kansas, which is, in years and years have been unfathomable. But it's disappointing, to say the least. So there's not much from a stats perspective to go over in this game. Obviously, for Oklahoma, I didn't spend any time at the front, really, really talking about that. Um, but like I said, it was bad all the way around. So from a statistical perspective, for Oklahoma, Jalil Farouk 5 carries for 60 yards, Eric Gray 11 for 59, Marcus Major only had 5 carries for 11 yards. So um, you still ran the ball for 156 yards. Not much of that was in the second half. A large majority of that was in the first half, and again, defense on defense couldn't get off the field um, on third down and long. Pretty um, pretty consistently. So that's the big one of the big takeaways that's continued to happen over and over again. So we'll see how how it continues to go. Does Oklahoma, the have the ability to right the ship, so to speak? Maybe, maybe not. If not, we'll keep talking about it. We'll see how it goes for Oklahoma. But as of right now, it does not look good in terms of Oklahoma even being bowl eligible or um, getting another win. So um, yeah, so I can't remember. Like I said, outside of the '90s, I can't remember two back-to-back games where this was, as bad, um, as it has been. So, um, I don't know really what else to say. It's about the two worst games back to back as you've seen before. Um, so yeah, and we'll see how, like I said, we'll see how it continues to go. If Oklahoma can get to some level of respectability and improve and get better, but right now it's about as bad as it's been. So we'll see what happens uh, going forward for Oklahoma. Got to move on to the next game against Kansas next Saturday. So I believe that is another 11 a.m. kickoff as well. So we'll be on here to talk about that even more next week. There's not a whole lot of really real questions here, but there's one question that had asked. About I can't find it now, but if Venables will go heavily into the portal next year, absolutely, I think so. They will have to go into the portal and get some guys. There I go. I found it here to get some guys next year because this is the talent is not where it needs to be on both sides of the ball, and so like I said, this is a fairly significant rebuild, I think, for the Sooners right now. But let's see week by week how things go, and we'll be on here Wednesday again to kind of talk a little bit more about this, preview Kansas, and in a game where a lot of people thought that this was a game. At least when you play Kansas, you think that that can be not necessarily an automatic win, but you got a good opportunity to win that game, which doesn't look that way now. But we shall see. And so I thank everybody for joining today. We will talk again soon on Wednesday. And I thank everybody for your time. We had tons of people joining for the wrong reasons, unfortunately. So take care, Boomer Sooner, and God bless.